past few years have been full of action-packed fights, and in this video I'll showcase some of my favourite ones. Let's do this season by season, so strap yourselves in and let's get going with the show. With winter 2020, we have some legacy franchises making their mark. While I'm not sure that FGO counts as a legacy franchise as much, since I'm using the term with the context of the Fate universe as a whole, it did give us one of the best grand finales we could ever hope for. Babylonia has been a consistently great adaptation, many things considered, and the final battle wraps things up with a battle of epic proportions. Seeing all those noble phantasms in the tension-filled battle against Tiamat is a thing of beauty. It's also an extended sequence that takes place across multiple episodes, but time just flew by watching them. Oh, and the other legacy series I'm talking about? Railgun. Railgun is generally seen as the best anime in the To-Aru universe, and with how Index 3 turned out not too long ago from Railgun T, that much is obvious. The showdown against Misaka at the climax of the first half is also a joy to watch. It's not quite as epic as the Tiamat battle, but it does get the job done really well, and as a bonus, does a great job in playing and developing the relationship between Misaka and Thoma. Oh, and we get to see Gunha show off his power for the first time ever too. For spring 2020, we take to the world of Shonen as it was Endeavor's moment of glory. My Hero Academia fans certainly have fond memories of this, as Endeavor takes on Hood in one of the best battles we got, looking at the franchise as a whole. While fans may not have as much emotional attachment to Endeavor compared to All Might, this fight seemed to be the turning point in the perception of him. It's all sorts of awesome, and it's here that we first got to see what a cool hero Endeavor really is. In terms of animation, however, few can match what we got from Oya and the Masked Outcasts. It's a fight that I've often discussed on this channel, and it's not quite as popular actually due to being in a very niche anime. Still, just take a look at the clip for yourself and see how quick, how fluid, and how well animated everything is. It's truly one of the best hand-to-hand fights in anime of all time. Before we end the season, how about giving some love to the fight that put Gleipnir on the map? Shuichi versus Hikawa turned a lot of heads that time, and for good reason too. Who knew that the epic fight animation and the gripping sequences in this battle was only a preview of the other awesome things the anime would give us? Summer 2020 had a lot of great sequels, but if we're looking at fights, especially in the aspect of crisp animation, there's no better place to go than China. It's in this season where we got a double header from both Fog Hill and White Cat Legend. There's not much that I'd like to say here that I haven't already said before, but I will let the clips do the talking. Chinese anime is quickly catching up in terms of production quality, that much is undeniable. I mean, I'm still not convinced that they can break into the mainstream, but who knows what will happen in the next decade or so. It's a non-zero possibility after all, right? The season was also known at the time for God of High School. While the actual adaptation may leave a lot to be desired due to how they adapted the story at the breakneck speed they did, there's no doubt that the fights are top-notch. Jin had a lot of crazy awesome encounters there, but for the sake of this video, I'd like to give the fight against Jegal some love. For other honorable mentions, we have the shonen doubleheader of Zoro versus Killer, as well as Benimaru versus Holy Soul's Shadows. We also have Kirito versus Gabrielle, which I really enjoyed, both as a fan of SAO and a guy who's a sucker for spirit bomb-like fighters. Fight helped put a punctuation on what logically seemed like the end of the storied franchise. Fall 2020 saw the rise of the next big thing in shonen, Jujutsu Kaisen, and it didn't waste much time getting its feet on the gas. Banger fight after banger fight, and its first half alone brought us stuff like Yuji and Nanami versus Mahito. Captains also clashed in Black Clover, and while it's only a preview of the awesomeness that's about to come, it feels so good seeing everyone go all out. A true heavyweight showdown for Black Clover fans to remember. New Team 7's not going to let themselves be outshined, however, and their fight with Deepa was likewise awesome. I really love that it's a team effort in that one. Meanwhile, Bell and Asterius added more in their storied rivalry, solidifying their status as pretty much equals in the field. And if you want something so amazing coming from a show that slipped under everyone's radar, Executioner versus Brawler from Akudama Drive could be your jam. We then move on to the year 2021. With a new year comes new beginnings. Here Jujutsu Kaisen kept up with the huge momentum it built up from the previous year, giving us what I consider its best fight. Yuji and Todo versus Hanami is nothing short of insane. The animation is good, the emotional stakes are good, the actual flow of the battle is good as well. And while all eyes were on Jujutsu Kaisen at this time, I feel it's right to once again bridge to Black Clover, which gave us the epic Asta and Yami versus Dante fight. The Black Clover anime was on its last legs at this time, but it sure is going out with a blaze of glory. And let's not forget that this is the season that kickstarted the AOT final. And while things have changed a lot for Attack on Titan over the years, one thing hasn't, and it's the ever-present exciting battles that the show has to offer. Eren versus Warhammer Titan is truly a sight to see. To finish off, it may not be the flashiest fight the series has had, but I personally have a soft spot for Ram versus Roswar. The way that episode ended was just excellent, and it gave some much needed depth to two of ReZero's less prominent characters. Spring 2021 continues the trend of awesome fights with eye-popping animation. ReZero's second season may have ended its run, but Tappei Nagatsuki kept his fingerprints on the anime industry with Vivi. While not exactly a fight-centric show in my opinion, Vivi does a great job of making it look so. Just take a look at how much effort they put on this Vivi and Yugo fight. And speaking of sci-fi titles that have rather complex themes, I bring you 86. It's a show that's all about ethics, politics and the like, but I have no doubt that the final confrontation between Shin and Rei had you in tears, especially when the musical masterpiece Avid hit during the closing moments. In terms of pure hype, however, this season's best fight goes to Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen. Naruto fans have been waiting for this moment since forever, and it hits a lot harder to see both Naruto and Sasuke teaming up again after so long. And my joke that Boruto triples in quality when these legacy characters fight still holds true. Now, Naruto wasn't quite done yet, because summer 2021 is when we got this legendary fight versus Ishiki. This is a fight that Naruto fans should never miss out on. We got treated to Baryon mode and an emotional farewell to one of the most prominent and important characters in the series, all in our previous hero's bid for redemption. There's also some other good stuff coming from the world of shonen around this time. Villain versus villain battles are fun, especially when there's a lot of hype surrounding the two and their power levels. Shigaraki and Reed Destro made sure to hammer that point down. To talk about honorable mentions, however, we move on to Dragon Maid? Yes, indeed. Dragon Maid had that Toru versus Elma fight that gave the show a sudden but welcome edge. It feels so cool seeing the sheer destruction and intensity in a series that's generally light-hearted and comedic. Oh, and while Detective Is Already Dead has garnered quite the polarizing reception, I think everyone can agree that the first episode's fight sequence on the plane is the show's high point. Siesta's clash with Bat is a thing of beauty. Fall 2021 was a season of big hits too. Way more stacked than summer, I'd say. After all, it's got a new Demon Slayer season, and those people who missed the movie got treated to another take on Rengoku versus Akaza. It's all throughout an epic fight even with Demon Slayer standards, and it's the attraction that moviegoers looked for when they helped Infinity Train break all those records left and right. Can I just comment on how lucky TV anime viewers are for getting to experience this fight too? Granted, I think it just looks way better on a big screen, but still. Mushoku Tensei also had one of its most gripping fights in the form of Dead End versus Orsted. By all means, it's a squash match, but the battle did such a great job of evoking emotions in viewers. The acting and the subsequent emotional stakes created by the fight, there's nothing like this in Mushoku Tensei up until that point. It's truly a notable sequence. Now let's not forget one of the biggest sleeper hits of the year, Ranking of Kings. It's so overlooked, but turned out to be one of the best shows to come out that year. And as for its fights, there are a lot of great examples, but I'm going to go ahead and give Dorsch versus Hound some love. But there are other contenders that I wouldn't mind putting as its best battle. While Jujutsu Kaisen opened the previous year with an even better showing thanks to its momentum, it's Demon Slayer's turn this time round. The whole climax of the Entertainment District arc is something that I've shown much love for on this channel, and how could I not? It's supposedly something very long, but it never felt that way watching it due to how well it separates the long battles into multiple segments, all giving our characters different times to shine. The astounding animation quality is a given, but narratively and pacing wise, Team Tengen versus the two Upper Moons also got the job done. Mikasa versus the Jaegerist is also something that we can take note of. It's not too often that you get human versus human clashes in Attack on Titan, especially this early on. When they happen, the results are often good. On another note, Arifureta certainly stepped up its game for the second season. Hajime versus Noint was a struggle for the protagonist, the first one in a while, and it's one of the more engaging battles the series had in its 2 seasons. And in the same vein as the Dragon Maid example a while ago, we have a light-hearted series making a 180 turn in terms of drama and intensity with Princess Connect's second season. season. So much that the lead up to Pecorin vs Kaiser Insight, basically the last 3 or so episodes of the show, had me staying up late at night waiting for raw spoilers and screenshots. Now that's how invested I was in this finale. Right, before we move on, how about hitting that like button if you like what you've been seeing so far? Likes and interactions make for some good algorithm and it helps the video do better. And that way, I can also know that you love these kinds of videos and will make more of them. If you're looking for something that delivers on the hype, on the build-up, on the story, look no further than my pick for Spring 2022. Worst Generation versus Kaido and Big Mom. For so many years, so many seasons, it's been building up to this showdown of epic proportions. The great Kaido and Big Mom have formed an unholy alliance, and it would take the strongest opponents to defeat them. Turns out Luffy and the Worst Generations are more than up to the task, giving us episode after episode of goosebump-inducing action sequences, dialogue, and drama. Sure, One Piece is nowhere near over, but this really had that big fight feel that makes it look very fitting for a show's grand finale. But I also want to give some niche hits a bit of shine for this year. Bubble didn't exactly blow the world away, but that Uta versus Undertaker sequence was a good example of cinematic masterclass in terms of how camera direction drives up immersion. There's also Fine versus Kubo, a gem from Vampire in the Garden. Summer 2022 also brought us some underrated hits. At the forefront of it was Summertime Render. For such a good show, it gets so little traction. A complete journey that's full of mastery and surprises, not to mention some banger action scenes that can give shonen hits a run for their money. I love the final battle to death, but I think that the best one amongst the fights would be Humans versus Shadows in the School. A complete team effort that showcased the power and resilience of humanity in spite of physically being outmatched. Licorice Recall, on the other hand, took the anime world by storm, seemingly out of nowhere. But the show just works, and while the main attraction for me is the characters and how alive they are, pun intended, thanks to its dialogue, it's no slouch in fights. The final where Chisato faces off against Majima is still something I rewatch when I'm in the mood for it. And before leaving this season, I'd like to give a shout out to Team Ruby versus Nightmare Blake. If you thought that that's not enough epic battles for summer, 4 has you covered, in a big way. Blockbuster Bleach made its return to much fanfare, and a lot of it has to do with the fights and overall mood of the season, making the whole thing feel cinematic. And there's no better example of that than Yamamoto versus Yuha. A hype battle breaking all the expectations, it helps set the tone as to what kind of season 1000-Year Blood War will be for Bleach. Meanwhile, we got the whole League of Villains thing done for My Hero Academia at this point in time. It's time for the new and improved Shigaraki to show everyone what he's made of. A true terror incarnate this season, his fight against everyone is one of the best fights My Hero Academia has put out in the post-All Might era. This season also marked the debut of one of the most talked about action series, Chainsaw Man. For the most part, Chainsaw Man has lived up to the expectations, and its adaptations of its fights really brought in the much requested impact and violence. Denji vs Katana Man is my highlight for the show so far. With new beginnings come heartbreaking farewells. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Poochie versus everyone in JoJo and Dimple versus Psycho Helmet are awesome fights in their own right. Thus, we enter 2023. Familiar territory now, isn't it? How did last season hold up for you? Well, for me, it felt really good seeing Boruto finally get his shine in a solo fight against Gabaki. It feels like a coming out party for our protagonist, who's been overshadowed by a lot of fellow characters in his own series, it seems. It's time we get to see some awesome solo Boruto acting, and 2023 gave us just that. I also quite like the new Trigun. It doesn't feel as magical as the original, but the Knives vs Vash fight was something to take note of. Speaking of things that aren't as hype but still managed to hold out well in terms of quality, we got Lady Nagant versus Deku. Lady Nagant doesn't carry as much of a presence as Shigaraki, but this fight against Deku really sold you on the idea of her as an awesome character. So while going from Shigaraki's rampage to this might seem like a downgrade, the fight itself slams that idea shut. Kaido's also still not done. I do think the fight involving the Worst Generation has a lot more highlight potential to it. This battle against Luffy and Yamato is likewise lit. It's the ultimate tag team that knocked Kaido down a peg and further cemented Yamato as a major fan favorite amongst the key characters in One Piece. Now, at the time of writing, spring 2023 isn't done yet, and I'm going to make a separate video just for it soon. Whoa, so how's that for a 3-year recap? These 3 years have shown us some excellence in the world of anime fights, and I can't wait to see more. Okay, so leave this down in the comments. Which fights are your favorite from the past 3 years, and which upcoming shows are you seeing some potential in? I do hope to hear your thoughts both here and on ViniiTube's many social media channels. Thanks for watching the video, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.